The HSS Behemoth was never meant to fight a war alone. As the most advanced warship in the Terran fleet, it was designed for tactical superiority, not suicidal battles. Built as a Leviathan-class battlecruiser, it carried state-of-the-art weaponry, energy shielding, and an AI system more sophisticated than anything humanity had ever produced. But no amount of technology could change one simple fact. It was outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Commander Elias Carter sat in his command chair, eyes locked onto the massive view screen before him. The deep void of space stretched endlessly beyond, broken only by the sight of 1,000 alien warships. The ships belonged to the Zelnari, a race of technologically advanced, war-hardened conquerors. Humanity had known about them for years, but this was the first time a lone human warship had come face-to-face with an entire fleet. The Behemoth's mission had been simple: deep space reconnaissance. No human had ever ventured into this sector, which intelligence reports had labeled uninhabited. But the reports were wrong. Terribly wrong. The Zelnari Armada. The Zelnari ships varied in size and design, but they all shared a sleek, menacing aesthetic. Their hulls were a shimmering black, absorbing all surrounding light, making them look like voids in space. Some were small, fast attack fighters, darting through the fleet like metallic wasps, while others were colossal dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon. Carter knew that the Zelnari were notorious for their ruthless tactics. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. When they encountered a species weaker than them, they erased them from existence. And now, they had turned their attention to the lone human warship trespassing in their space. Commander, the ship's AI, Sentinel, spoke in its eerily calm synthetic voice. The enemy fleet is shifting into an engagement formation. Carter inhaled sharply. They're not hailing us. No attempts at communication have been made, Sentinel confirmed. Weapons are powering up across their entire fleet. The commander clenched his jaw. There was no mistaking the intent. The Zelnari weren't interested in talking. They had already decided that the Behemoth was a threat, or worse, prey. Carter turned to his bridge crew. His officers were battle-hardened, but even they couldn't hide their unease. 1,000 ships. It was an unwinnable fight. But Carter had never believed in unwinnable fights. The Behemoth, a warship unlike any other, though it was outnumbered, the Behemoth was far from defenseless. Designed as a dreadnought killer, it carried weapons powerful enough to shatter moons. Its primary arsenal included kinetic railguns, magnetic cannons capable of firing tungsten slugs at near light speeds, tearing through armor like paper, quantum torpedoes, projectiles that phase through shields before detonating with the force of a nuclear bomb, plasma cannons, high-energy beams that could slice through entire squadrons in seconds, adaptive energy shields, able to adjust frequency in real time to resist enemy weaponry, Sentinel AI, capable of processing combat strategies in milliseconds, allowing the ship to react faster than any organic pilot ever could. But no matter how advanced the Behemoth was, it was still just one ship against a fleet of 1,000. Carter exhaled and stood. All stations, battle stations. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. A moment of silence before the storm. The bridge went eerily silent as alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the ship, signaling the highest level of alert. Across the Behemoth, gunners manned their stations, engineers reinforced the shields, and fighter pilots strapped into their cockpits, ready to launch. Outside, the Zelnari fleet was still shifting into attack formation. Carter knew why. They weren't in a hurry. They were toying with them. He had read reports about how the Zelnari fought. They didn't overwhelm their enemies all at once. No, they encircled them, forcing them into panic, waiting for them to make a mistake. Carter wasn't about to give them the satisfaction. The enemy moves first. Suddenly, Sentinel spoke. Incoming fire detected. The first shots were launched, 1,000 beams of burning energy, each one locked onto Behemoth. The Zelnari had fired in perfect synchronization, an overwhelming display of power. Brace! Carter shouted. The beam slammed into Behemoth's shields, sending ripples of energy crackling across the hull. The ship rumbled violently, but the shields held, for now. This was only the beginning. Their main battle groups are advancing, Sentinel reported. Multiple capital ships are locking onto us. Estimated time to shield failure, 6 minutes. 6 minutes. That was all the time they had before the shields collapsed and they were exposed to direct enemy fire. The first strike, a desperate move. Carter knew he couldn't outrun them. He couldn't outlast them. The only option was to fight smarter. Load MAC cannons, Carter ordered. Target their formation central battlecruiser. The magnetic accelerator cannons powered up, glowing with lethal energy. The targeting reticles locked onto a Zelnari command vessel, a massive warship positioned at the heart of the fleet. Carter's plan was risky, but it was their only chance. By destroying command vessel, they could disrupt the enemy's formation, buying precious time. Fire! The behemoth shuddered as the MAC cannons unleashed hell. Tungsten slugs the size of buses rocketed toward their target at near light speed. Impact! The Zelnari warship detonated in a blinding explosion, its debris ripping through nearby vessels. The enemy formation broke apart, their perfect coordination shattered. For the first time, there was a pause, a moment where the Zelnari hesitated. The realization they wouldn't back down. Carter gritted his teeth. The behemoth had bought itself a few seconds, but the Zelnari weren't fleeing. If anything, they were angrier. More ships advanced. More weapons charged. This wasn't just a battle. It was an execution. And yet, Carter smiled. They weren't dead yet. Prepare the next salvo, he commanded. This fight is just getting started. The HSS Behemoth had drawn first blood, obliterating a Zelnari command vessel with its devastating MAC cannons. Debris from a shattered ship spun through space, colliding with nearby enemy fighters and capital ships, throwing their formation into chaos. For a brief moment, the Zelnari hesitated. They had never encountered human warships in open combat before, certainly not one as advanced as a Behemoth. The ship had not only survived their initial attack, but countered with terrifying precision. But that hesitation didn't last long. The Zelnari were a warrior species, and now they were angry. The destruction of their command ship was an insult they wouldn't let stand. Carter knew it, too. He could already see them reorganizing, shifting tactics, preparing for the next wave. The Behemoth had bought itself a few moments, but nothing more. And time was not on their side. 1,000 ships, one target. Incoming enemy reinforcements, Sentinel reported. They have reorganized their battle groups. New attack pattern detected. Carter's eyes narrowed at the tactical display. The Zelnari were no longer trying to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Instead, they have formed a three-pronged assault formation designed to attack from multiple angles at once. They're adjusting, Carter muttered. They're attempting a pincer maneuver, his tactical officer confirmed. They'll box us in and hammer us from all sides. If they succeeded, the Behemoth's shields would collapse in minutes. There would be no escape. But Carter wasn't going to let that happen. Then we won't let them surround us, he growled. Helm, full thrusters, charged directly at their center. There was a moment of stunned silence on the bridge. The order was insane. Charging into the heart of the enemy fleet meant suicidal close-quarters combat. But Carter had a plan. Breaking the formation. The Behemoth roared forward, its massive engines pushing toward the core of the Zelnari fleet. Enemy ships scrambled to react, their captains momentarily stunned by the sheer audacity of the move. Target their battleships and launch quantum torpedoes, Carter commanded. From the Behemoth's missile bays, dozens of quantum torpedoes erupted into space, each one streaking toward the largest enemy warships. These weapons were unique, capable of phasing through shields before detonating inside the ship's hull. Boom, boom, boom. The explosions were cataclysmic. Zelnari capital ships were ripped apart from within, their reactor cores igniting in violent chain reactions. In mere seconds, another 50 enemy ships were gone. The Zelnari fleet, what had been moving to encircle the Behemoth, now found itself in disarray. Their center was collapsing, their formation breaking. Carter clenched his fist. It was working. The Zelnari counterattack. But the Zelnari were not beaten yet. Their rear fleet surged forward, thousands of fighters and cruisers swarming toward the Behemoth like a tidal wave. Enemy ships closing in from all directions, Sentinel warned. Collision risk high. Carter grimaced. They were too close for heavy weapons. Switched to point defense turrets. The Behemoth's auto-tracking turrets whirred to life, their rapid-fire laser cannons unleashing a storm of energy across space. Hundreds of enemy fighters were incinerated in seconds, their sleek black holes melting under the relentless barrage. But for every Zelnari ship destroyed, more took its place. Then, the Zelnari dreadnoughts entered the battle. These Behemoth-class warships, each nearly the size of the Behemoth itself, opened fire with their disruptor cannons, weapons designed to tear through shielding technology. The Behemoth shuddered violently as the first volley struck. Blue energy surged across the ship's hull, overloading the shields. Sparks erupted from control panels across the bridge. "Shields at 47% and dropping," a crewman shouted. Another blast rocked the ship, sending officers stumbling against their consoles. Then came the worst news. Multiple enemy boarding ships inbound, Sentinel reported. Carter's breath caught. Boarding ships. The Zelnari weren't just trying to destroy them. They wanted to capture the Behemoth. Hand-to-hand combat begins. The enemy's boarding pod slammed into the Behemoth's hull, their mechanical claws digging into the ship's superstructure. Within moments, the Zelnari were inside. "Security teams, engage all boarders," Carter ordered. "Seal off critical sections." Across the Behemoth, gunfire and explosions erupted as Zelnari warriors clashed with human marines in brutal corridor combat. The Zelnari were stronger and faster than humans, but the Behemoth security teams were battle-hardened veterans. Blaster fire illuminated the darkened corridors as Marines fought to hold the line. Grenades exploded, plasma bolts scorched walls, and screams echoed through the ship. Carter's tactical display showed enemy forces advancing toward the bridge. "They're coming for command," he muttered. The desperate gamble. Outside, the battle raged on. The Behemoth was surrounded, its shields failing, its interior overrun. There was only one move left. Carter turned to his AI. "Sentinel, prepare the adaptive cloaking system." The AI hesitated. "Commander, that system is experimental. Using it under current conditions could cause." "I don't care," Carter snapped. "Activate it." The ship flickered, its energy signature shifting. The adaptive cloak wasn't a traditional stealth system. It bent space around the ship, temporarily phasing it between dimensions. For a moment, the Behemoth vanished. The Zelnari fleet hesitated, their targeting system scrambling. Then, without warning, the Behemoth reappeared, inside the heart of the enemy formation. Point-blank destruction. "Fire everything." The Behemoth's plasma cannons, railguns, and torpedoes erupted in all directions. At point-blank range, the Zelnari had no chance to react. Hundreds of ships disintegrated instantly, their crews wiped out before they even knew what hit them. The Behemoth had just turned the tide of the battle, but the damage had been done. The ship was crippled, and the Zelnari were still not backing down. Carter's expression darkened. "They weren't out of this yet." "Sentinel," he said, "begin preparations for the final maneuver." The AI's response was ominous. "Commander, if we execute this maneuver, the Behemoth will not survive." Carter exhaled. He already knew that, but he also knew one ship could still change the fate of a war, and he was about to prove it. The HSS Behemoth had done the impossible. Against 1,000 enemy ships, it had carved a path of destruction to the Zelnari fleet, exploiting their weaknesses, using advanced tactics, and unleashing firepower never before seen by the alien conquerors. But now, the Behemoth was on its last legs. Its shields were gone. Its hull was scorched and riddled with damage. Its crew was fighting Zelnari invaders in brutal hand-to-hand combat. And still, the enemy was coming. Carter clutched the edge of his command console, his knuckles white. The ship's damage reports flooded the screen, entire sections venting into space, power fluctuations across all systems, weapons running dangerously low on energy. The battle had taken its toll. They had fought like demons, but the reality was sinking in. There was no way out. The Zelnari's terrifying response. On the main view screen, Carter saw the Zelnari changing tactics again. Their fleet, now down to 600 ships, had regrouped. This time, they weren't just attacking. They were preparing something bigger. Sentinel, Carter said, voice low, "What are they doing?" The AI's response was grim. "They are charging a superweapon." Carter's blood ran cold. At the center of the remaining Zelnari fleet, a massive capital ship, a planet-killer dreadnought, was glowing with an ominous blue energy field. Its core pulsed with unimaginable power. A stellar disintegration cannon, a weapon capable of obliterating entire worlds in a single shot. They weren't just going to destroy the behemoth. They were going to make an example out of it. The entire human race was being given a warning. Resist us, and you will be annihilated. The crew faces the end. Carter exhaled, looking around at his bridge officers. They were battered, exhausted, but still standing. They had fought this long. They weren't about to give up now. He turned to Sentinel. "How long until that cannon fires?" "Approximately 3 minutes." Carter's mind raced. There had to be a way to stop it. A desperate plan. Then an idea formed. It was insane. It was suicidal. And it was the only chance they had. "Sentinel," Carter said, "prepare for a direct collision course with that dreadnought." The AI paused, as if trying to process the command. "Commander, ramming their flagship will result in total destruction of this vessel." "I know," Carter said quietly. The bridge fell silent. His officers stared at him, realization dawning on their faces. This was it. There was no escape plan. Just one last attack. Then, a voice broke the silence. "I'll be damned," his first officer muttered. "We're going out like legends." Carter smirked. No one lives forever. The behemoth's final charge. The behemoth's damaged engines roared to life one last time. Fire and debris trailed behind it as it accelerated toward the dreadnought. The Zelnari, sensing the move, tried to react, but it was too late. "Divert all power to forward shields," Carter ordered. "Weapons to maximum. Fire at will." The last of the behemoth's torpedoes and railgun rounds tore into the Zelnari fleet, blasting ships apart as they scrambled to block its path. But nothing could stop it now. The Zelnari dreadnought's cannon was 95% charged. The behemoth was seconds away. Carter's grip on the console tightened. All hands, brace for impact. Collision, the behemoth's last act. Boom. The HSS Behemoth slammed into the Zelnari dreadnought at near-relativistic speeds. The impact was cataclysmic, a collision of unstoppable force and unmovable object. The dreadnought's reactor, overloaded with energy for its superweapon, collapsing on itself. A supernova-like explosion erupted in space, a blinding flash that swallowed everything. The shockwave tore through the Zelnari fleet, reducing hundreds of warships to floating wreckage. The once mighty armada was broken, their greatest weapon destroyed by a single human ship. The behemoth was gone. The aftermath, mass panic in the Zelnari Empire. The surviving Zelnari ships fled. For the first time in their history, they had suffered a devastating defeat. Not at the hands of an empire, not from a fleet, but from one lone warship and its crew. The news spread like wildfire across the Zelnari Empire. Their unstoppable military had been humbled. Their soldiers whispered in fear of human resolve, human ingenuity, and human madness. For the first time ever, the Zelnari hesitated before attacking another human world. They panicked at the thought. If one ship could do this, what would an entire human fleet be capable of? A legacy written in fire. Back in human space, the battle became legend. The name HSS Behemoth was etched into history. Songs were sung, stories told, monuments raised in honor of Carter and his crew. And though the behemoth was lost, its sacrifice changed everything. The Zelnari no longer saw humanity as prey. They saw them as a nightmare they never wanted to face again. The war had just begun. In the vastness of space, where once there had been only fear, now there was hope. Because the Zelnari learned something that day. Humanity didn't just fight. Humanity never surrendered.